Survival of the Sickest addresses the evolutionary connection between illnesses and mechanisms within one's body, as well as theories as to how further studies into the function of many of these mechanisms may contribute to elongating one's life. How does the past affect the present? Why does a specific disease even appear in the human genome? What contributes to the differences between humans worldwide? How does this mechanism contribute to the longevity of one's life? Dr. Sharon Mulham's Survival of the Sickest pinpoints and brushes the surface on these questions that arise every day in the scientific community.
Chapter 1. Iron is an important resource in our body, providing a source of nutrients and growth as well as other processes. The key is that it needs to be regulated. Hemochromatosis is a disease that disables the body from regulating iron levels, thus resulting in an increase in iron levels, which can end up killing an adult after about 30 to 40 years if left untreated. However, hemochromatosis ended up being a beneficial adaptation during the bubonic plague. Although it leads to an increased retention of iron, ironically, it starved the macrophages in the body's immune system that eat and break down foreign bacteria such as ones transmitted in the bubonic plague. The lack of iron in macrophages starves the bacteria, therefore isolates it, not allowing it to spread.
Chapter 2. Different species have acquired certain adaptations in order to withstand extremely cold temperatures. Whenever woodland frogs first touch ice, warning them of the temperature drop, the frogs begin a freezing process. Water is drawn from the rest of the body and huge amounts of glucose are released, acting as an antifreeze. To an observer, it appears dead considering it has no heartbeat. When the temperatures begin to rise in the spring, the frog thaws and comes back to life. This freezing method, if it can be properly replicated, could potentially be applied to preserving human organs.
Chapter 3. Although skin color is often viewed as a determinant used to classify each individual by race or ethnicity, a person's skin color consists of a magnitude of history related to survival or evolution. The amount of UV rate absorbed by one's skin determines the level of vitamin D, cholesterol, and folic acid, which are in charge of proper bone growth, absorption of vitamin D, and DNA replication, respectively. Darker skin prevents sunlight from inhibiting the production of folic acid while reducing the production of vitamin D due to the lack of UV ray light. As a result, the ApoE4 gene is activated, increasing the amount of cholesterol, which in turn increases the vitamin D produced. On the other hand, people with a lighter skin tone lack the ability to produce folic acid as the UV ray light prevents.
Chapter 4. The fava bean, a commonly consumed plant, can be deadly to many who have been exposed to the cultivation of it. Favism is a disease that can have a detrimental effect on its consumers due to the lack of G6PD gene associated with the protection of one's red blood cells. The mutation was selected for as it allows people exposed to malaria to survive more often, as the free radicals from the fava beans causes the red blood cells to burst, taking away the place for parasites to attack. Also, plants produce toxins, thorns, and phytoestrogens that act in a fashion to protect itself from predators and increase reproduction rate. The environment partakes in a significant role in evolution and natural selection, impacting who or what survives and who or what doesn't.
Chapter 5. Parasitic relationships have shown to develop evolutionary manipulative adaptations to coerce the host to perform actions that will work in the parasite's favor. For example, there is a parasitic wasp that affects the Plesiometa argyro spider. The wasp stings the spider, lays its eggs on its belly, and then the larvae proceed to feed on the spider until it's ready to form a cocoon. It secretes a chemical causing it to form a web favorable to the wasp's cocoon, and then finally consumes the spider's life when it's fully become an adult. Another occurrence of parasitism is with the guinea worms and humans, whose larvae is ingested when humans drink water. The larvae grow in the large intestine and eventually go to the skin surface where it secretes a chemical that burns human skin. It uses the natural response of a human to apply water to the burning area as a way to spread its eggs.
Chapter 6. Every cell in our body consists of the same DNA regardless of the unique function each individual cell performs. Environmental factors can speed up the cellular process. For example, when corn is placed in extreme circumstances, it experiences a rapid increase in its mutation rate due to survival instincts. Jumping genes represent an organism's natural survival instinct as it changes elements in the genome. Organism genome is in fact composed of a majority of non-coding DNA that is actually the remnant of benign viruses. Causing some to believe the virus and organism were involved in a symbiotic relation. A virus was provided with an organism to live on, while the organism was provided with a genetic code to live by.
Chapter 7. Epigenetics is the field that explores how certain events in a parent's lifetime can affect their child. A mother's diet, for example, if consisted primarily of unhealthy junk food while pregnant, can increase the likelihood of her child to become obese. Methylation is a mechanism that controls gene expression, which can be affected by environmental factors. For example, the agouti gene in mice, when turned on, results in fat yellow mice. When two groups of fat yellow mice were fed different diets, it results in one group's offspring being skinny and brown. The differing diets cause the agouti gene to be turned off. This defies the idea that a parent's activities can't affect
Chapter 8. Aging is an intentional process of the body. The maximum amount of times a cell can divide induces the aging process in the body. Each cell has a certain quota of times it can duplicate, and this limit is called the Hayflick limit. One might assume that some of the DNA could be lost or replicating so many times, but the body combats this loss of DNA by the use of telomerase. Each cell starts out with long telomerase that slowly shortens after each cell division. Whenever the telomerase is used up, that is when the cell stops dividing, protecting it from losing any important information. In theory, with an endless supply of telomerase, cell could be able to divide indefinitely, therefore potentially achieving immortality.
In conclusion, evolution is a key process that has allowed all organisms to be better adapted to life. Sometimes these evolutionary mutations have been results of certain environmental pressures placed on a given population at a certain time. Although today these mutations have left a trail of disadvantageous conditions and diseases, they weren't designed for the modern population. The goal of evolution is to ensure survival and reproduction, and each species acquires their own unique and cunning adaptations to make sure this goal is met.